This is Outnumbered, and I'm Melissa Francis. Here today, Fox News contributor Lisa Booth, Fox News Headlines 24/7 reporter Carly Shimkus, syndicated radio host and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall, and joining us today, Fox and Friends co-host Brian Kilmeade, who's also host of the Brian Kilmeade radio show. Leslie, I mean, the amnesia in this country blows me away. When you talk about shifting officers away from school safety, have we already forgotten about school shootings? Because our kids aren't allowed to go to school in this city, they've forgotten the epidemic that Democrats were so enraged over of school shootings. So now in this city, they are going to move those officers out. I have a son in public school. The school safety officers are outstanding. First of all, they're mostly women. They are there day in and day out. They provide comfort, and they watch who comes in and out of the front door. These people know my child's name. They are looking for him. They're telling me how he's doing. This is outrageous. I mean, to take officers out of schools, I mean, have we forgotten about school shootings and keeping our children safe?
Well, Melissa, there are two schools of thought on this, depending on who you talk to when it comes to the numbers. A lot of people here who are even on the left who are critics of what is coming out of New York City say these are budgetary tricks, moving money from one column to the other. As an example, you spoke specifically about school safety agents, which was something I was looking at as a mom, even though I'm in LA. I'm concerned about kids nationwide. And what they say is the agents will remain, that the money will come under the budget of education versus police. True, there will be 1,100 less police officers on the streets, but this is an $87 billion budget, despite a $9 billion deficit created by COVID. And this is, from 7 years ago, $14 billion more. So, in other words, the headlines make it sound better for some than it is, worse for some than it is, to appease, if you will, people on both sides. But the reality is there's a lot of numbers that are being moved around, and it's quite normal if somebody has, like the city of New York or any city, a deficit. As you know, Melissa, you know a lot more about finances than I do, to have to make cuts to sustain a city and its budget, especially in light of what's happening in the pandemic.
He's moving.
Yeah. Leslie, as former Vice President Joe Biden talks about raising anyone's taxes, it reminds me of the Obama administration after the last economic crisis, raising taxes and presiding over the slowest, worst recovery in the history of our country. And that's not my opinion. That comes from Federal Reserve data.
Look, I don't think the American people are looking at what the former vice president and Democratic nominee is saying as increase in taxes, but rather getting rid of legislation that really hasn't benefited lower income Americans in this country as much as it has wealthier people and wealthy corporations and corporation owners. With regard to this being a message and whether or not it's whether or not the tax legislation, which is largely a Republican piece of legislation, when you look at right now numbers, okay, and that's what the vice president's doing. You have a 62% disapproval rate right now, according to the latest CBS poll, of how the president is handling this. You have a decrease of more than 6% in the president's numbers, as the increase of over 6% with disapproval and a decrease of over 5% from the approval. Across the board, the numbers are showing that the majority of the people are not trusting the president. The majority of the American people don't like the way the president is handling this from a political perspective. As his opponent, Joe Biden is going down the right road, speaking of this and his attacks. And Brian, the former vice president, said he's going to outline specifically what his plan would be going forward to combat this virus.
The Pentagon says there's no corroborating evidence to support the explosive New York Times report that Russia offered bounties to Taliban-linked militias to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan. To the American people, the thought of bounties, Leslie, on the heads of U.S. soldiers is a shocking allegation and a shocking claim. Now, Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they have been criticized for automatically going after the president as opposed to Russia, focusing on, Russia Trump 2.0 as opposed to the allegation of bounties on U.S. soldiers that, according to the Washington Post, could have actually led to the death of U.S. troops. So what's your response to their reaction to this story and the criticism of House Democratic leaders?
I think, quite frankly, it's a normal knee-jerk reaction when you have an opposing political party in power in the House as the Democrats, with the president being a Republican, as it would have been the other way around. If you want to say shocking, Brian, I'm going to shock you by agreeing with you regarding Afghanistan. One of the problems here is Russia. And I have to say, Mitt Romney was right back in the day when he talked about Russia being a problem. But here is the bigger problem, that the president has not really called out Russia. And former Vice President Joe Biden promises to do that if elected president in November. We know that Russia is looking at Afghanistan and the American troops winding down, American presence winding down there. They're very concerned, Russia, that Islamic fundamentalism will spread into Russia. And certainly Russia and China are looking to take advantage of the opportunity. This White House has been ambiguous at best when it comes to Russia. They will believe them when they have denials. Now, Russia and the Taliban, big surprise, deny this. But in addition, they are a little bit suspicious of them, Russia, specifically with the Middle East. We've got to be tougher when it comes to Russia, and there's got to be a line in the sand. Certainly, we need all the information here. Democrats shouldn't jump the gun, nor should Republicans. We need all the information, but we need to show the American people, and the president does, that Russia is really not our friend, and where do we stand with Russia, and make it very clear.
Seattle's police chief saying enough is enough after a 16-year-old boy was killed and a 14-year-old left in critical condition in the latest shooting near the city's Capitol Hill organized protester CHOP zone. It is the second deadly shooting and the fourth overall in or near the police-free area in the past 10 days. Police Chief Carmen Best says time to dismantle the protest zone. Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin, who has compared the CHOP zone to the summer of love, said last week that she would work with protesters to bring an end to their occupation, but still the barricades remain up. Leslie, I'll ask you, people are getting raped in the summer of love there, and you see this 14-year-old boy who was shot at 3 o'clock in the morning. What is a 14-year-old boy doing out at 3 o'clock in the morning? This was billed as a protest zone. Doesn't seem like it's turning out this way. What now?
Melissa, you and I are both moms, and we have that maternal instinct. My son turned 13 Sunday, and that was the first thing I thought is, what were these kids doing there? You have a 16-year-old that has died, a 14-year-old that is injured, another teenager that died. Both teenagers, by the way, that have lost their lives are African American. And I must say, what started off as a mission of justice, specifically racial justice, they clearly have lost their way. I mean, this is not what this was supposed to be about. And can they sit down and peacefully come up with the issues that they have and try to resolve those issues with government? Yes, but when you have people inside screaming that are allegedly liberals, a Second Amendment right to bear arms, and we're defending ourselves, and you have children dying, this has to be redirected. This is not being handled properly. They've lost their way. This is not what started, and it's ending badly. This is not justice now. It's becoming too violent, and something certainly has to be done.
The official Twitter account for the Democratic National Committee raising eyebrows with a tweet about President Trump's announcement that he would attend a 4th of July fireworks display at Mount Rushmore. The tweet later deleted. The tweet linked to an article about pushback from Native American activists who view Mount Rushmore as a desecration of stolen land. The Trump re-election team wasted no time urging people to vote November 3rd to, quote, stop this insanity. Leslie, I'm actually surprised that the DNC deleted this tweet, because I think the fact that this monument is on sacred ground to some Native Americans, I think that's a big concern among some people in the party. So what do you think about that?
Well, what they should have done is they should have left it up and attributed the quote, which it was, to the person who said it, who was Nick Tilson from Oglala, Lakota. Apologies if I didn't say that right, to the Native American community. And he said that Native Americans feel that Mount Rushmore is, quote, a symbol of white supremacy and structural racism. They feel that these individuals, the white man, stole their land, and now we're honoring with Mount Rushmore and have been for decades the colonizers. colonizers. However, in the Native American community, there are also those that say it's an opportunity for Americans to learn more about Native Americans, to learn more about our history, however negative, and they feel that Mount Rushmore should stay up. So there's definitely a difference of opinion within tribes, not just throughout the country, but in that area surrounding Mount Rushmore.